Well, hello. My name's Max Feinstein, and I'm an anesthesiology resident. In today's video, I'm telling you about why I chose a career in anesthesiology. There's no better place to start than with the number one reason for why I chose this career, which is, of course, lifestyle. I think there are some misconceptions around whether or not anesthesiology is indeed a lifestyle specialty. For example, I get these calls sometimes.
Feinstein? Yeah, it's Dr. Cutzalot. Want to book an emergent case right now. I got a perf appy with free air under the diaphragm and a lactate of 35. Need to go to the OR stat.
And really, the only way that I can respond is to let them know they should pencil me in for a 9 o'clock case start, because there's simply no way that I'm going to be able to get in before then. After all, this guy's not going to be able to walk himself, is he? No, but seriously, there are some misconceptions about anesthesiology being a lifestyle specialty, which I really think is a myth, because the reality is that emergency surgeries can happen at any time, at night, over the weekend, during holidays, so those of course have to be staffed by anesthesiologists. The real number one reason that I chose anesthesiology actually just starts in the operating room. So why don't we take a trip to the operating room and see what it's all about? Can't take you, unfortunately, little man.
First of all, the operating room is awesome, and I can't think of a cooler place to call my office, both figuratively and literally, because I'm always hot and have the AC cranked up when I'm at home, so I don't even have to think about it at work. Now the question is, if you're considering a career where you spend most of your time at work in the operating room, do you want to become a surgeon or do you want to become an anesthesiologist? Now one pearl that helped me make that decision was the old adage, if your favorite place in the world is the operating room, then become a surgeon. If your favorite place in the hospital is the operating room, then become an anesthesiologist. Another perk is that if you like sitting and you enjoy chairs, anesthesiology might be the career for you. Another consideration is if you prefer to primarily be working with your hands, then surgery is probably the better option. But if you'd like to have a mix of medical management as well as working with your hands, then anesthesiology is a great option. Something that really appealed to me about anesthesiology is the scope of medical management. I personally was considering going into internal medicine, partly because I really like the idea of having a broad knowledge base and having an understanding about a lot of physiology and pathophysiology as well as medication. So anesthesiology actually requires that you have all of that knowledge, because your anesthetic management of a patient is going to be dependent upon having an understanding of the interaction between the meds that you're giving and then also the patient's underlying conditions, any medications they take normally, and then of course what's going on the operating table. You have to consider that as you start turning a patient to the left or right, or you turn them up or down, that's actually going to change their pulmonary physiology, it may change their cardiac physiology, and all of this is going to affect how you're managing the patient in real time. Also consider what the surgeon is doing is going to affect your anesthetic management as well. So if you enjoy thinking about what's going on in surgery, then you have to really be aware of this as an anesthesiologist. For example, if a surgeon makes a very large incision across the abdomen, that's going to result in a lot of insensible fluid losses, which are going to change your management of the patient's fluid status. There are endless examples of the factors that anesthesiologists have to keep in mind while they're providing anesthesia. This can all pretty much be boiled down to knowing that there's a lot to keep in mind as you're providing anesthesia for surgery. Physiology, pathophysiology, medications, surgical physiology, and probably a lot others that I'm not aware of as I'm just at the beginning of my anesthesia training. Another aspect of anesthesiology that appealed to me is the fact that you can get instant gratification from providing medications to your patient and seeing the results right away, as opposed to some experiences that I've had in outpatient clinic on internal medicine. Okay, Bob, as part of establishing care, I'd like to go ahead and take your blood pressure and see if there are any changes that we need to make over time. Okay, Dr. Feinstein, that sounds good. Let's see what my blood pressure is. Oh, Bob, that blood pressure is pretty concerning. I'd like to go ahead and get you started on a medication to bring that blood pressure down. Why don't you make a follow-up appointment for 3 months from now and we'll see how that blood pressure is doing. Hey Bob, nice to see you again. Good to see you again, Dr. Feinstein. Let's see how that blood pressure is going. Oh, well, we made a little bit of headway here, so I guess we'll just increase the dose of your antihypertensive by 5 milligrams and then check back in 3 months and see how it's going. In anesthesia, if I see hypertension, I can be like, Esmolol, Labetalol, Hydralazine. Come at me, hypertension. In addition to intraoperative medical management, anesthesiologists also do a lot of procedures. That includes intubations, transesophageal echocardiography, nerve blocks, IV access that includes peripheral IVs, arterial lines, central lines, and so forth. Overall, anesthesiology includes a nice balance between being a proceduralist and also being a diagnostician. For anyone who's multilingual, going into anesthesia allows you to help out patients in a really unique way. If you consider that under ordinary circumstances, say in an outpatient clinic or the hospital floor, if the patient and the provider don't speak the same language, then you simply call an interpreter on the phone or have an interpreter in person in order to facilitate communication. But if you wheel the patient back to an operating room and you need to give them instructions to transfer from the stretcher to the operating table, or you need to let them know what's going on in terms of being able to breathe through the mask and what to expect in terms of the anesthesia, there's really no easy way to communicate that to the patient.
Hol my luft. Hol my luft.
Last but not least, one of the biggest reasons that I chose to apply for anesthesiology is the people. Now, the only type of physician who I like spending time with more than an anesthesiologist is a dermatologist. But since I don't particularly enjoy dermatology, I just married somebody who's going into it so that I can be free to go into anesthesiology. In my personal experience, I just found that I clicked really well with anesthesiologists both at my home institution and also at places where I had done AWAYS as a medical student. Well, that wraps up this video highlighting some of the reasons why I chose to go into anesthesiology. As it would have it, tomorrow's actually my first day being an anesthesia resident, so be sure to check back in future videos as I assess whether anything that I said in this video actually happens to be true. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.